The male friend went on and on about how men are stronger than women and all of this stuff. And they're, because they have to protect women and all this stuff.
Depends on how you define strength.
So here's what I asked him. I said, you do a lot of hunting, right? And he says, oh yeah. And I said, so you're out in the woods hunting, and you come across a big bear and a couple of little bears. Does it matter to you what the gender of that big bear is? And he goes, oh yeah, I wouldn't want to be around a female, a mother bear. I said, uh-huh. It's like you don't want to get between the babies and the mama bear, because mama bears can be vicious. So we've had some discussions already about big emotions, but we focused kind of on the anxiety part of it, those kind of big negative emotions. I think right now one of the big things that seems to pop out when I look at other social media and TV presentations and things like that is there's a lot of anger right now.
Yeah.
I think people on, we don't get political, but on people on both sides of the aisle seem to be angry at each other. And it's becoming almost a pandemic of its own, I think, is the thing about anger. You had some thoughts about anger too.
Yeah, so my thoughts were, and like as I was growing up and I've been reading the Bible and like seeing all the verses where it's like anger does not produce the righteousness God desires, or also don't let the sun go down on your anger. And I'm just like, when I see that, I'm like, okay, that's really great. Well, what if someone is just so horrible and awful and you're just supposed to just like be meek and take it? Like, that's just how I perceive it. And I just feel like when I look at the Bible as a whole, like obviously that's an important part of it, but God is a God of justice, and I think that standing up to injustice is important and not just sitting back and being silent.
Absolutely. I think there is a lot of confusion, especially when, among the people who read the Bible and want to listen to it. At times it almost feels like it's contradictory, but it really isn't if you look at the words and look at them more closely. I think anger is one of the emotions God's given us. I don't think he gave us an emotion just to make life difficult. Mm-hmm. I think there are times when anger is appropriate. There are times when God was angry. There are times when Jesus was angry. And we're told by the Bible that Jesus never sinned. So if he was angry and turned over the tables in the temple twice because they were abusing the people he was trying to help, there are times when righteous anger is there. In fact, the Bible even says, and I wrote down a few verses that I wanted to kind of go back to. In Ephesians, so New Testament, the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, 26 to 27, if anybody wants to look this up, it says, be angry and do not sin. It's saying be angry and do not sin. It's not saying don't be angry. Mm-hmm. So I think the writer of Ephesians knows that there are times when we are angry. Mm-hmm. What he's saying is don't sin in your anger. I remember one time when I was babysitting a couple of your cousins, and Emily was only like 4 years old, and of course she and Kyle.
Just a baby.
Just a baby. Anyway, I was babysitting them, and they were playing with Legos, and one of them hauled off and hit the other one.
I bet it was Emily hitting Kyle.
And I remember saying, okay, now stop. Basically what I said in some way was, it's okay to be angry when somebody steals your Lego, the Legos you were working with, but you don't get to hit them. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, let's deal with that anger. But so it makes sense, especially in a 4-year-old's language. It's like they took the Legos I was playing with. I'm gonna bop them over the head with
1 + 1 = 2.
And I think that the thing is, we have to realize that sometimes anger is justified. But what do we do with that anger? The Bible is very clear in a lot of cases. It says, be angry, but do not sin. It also says, don't let the sun go. The same verse says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. So again, he's not saying that the anger itself is a sin. I think the anger is an emotion that God has given us to use for right reasons. And, we tend to use it for the wrong reasons sometimes. And when it means, I think the way I interpret, don't let the sun go down on your anger, doesn't necessarily mean specifically, okay, the sun went down, I'm in trouble now. It's don't hold on to the anger is the way I look at it. Don't harbor the anger, because that's not good either. And if you think about it, every emotion we have kind of takes it's self-limiting, and it takes a little wave-like shape to it. It increases, every emotion, including anger, kind of increases in intensity for a little bit, and then if we just deal with it in a healthy way, it goes down on its own. And the way that I know that is because when think about the last time you're angry, and I've done this myself. Think about the last time you were angry and you were justified in being angry. Have you ever rehearsed in your mind over and over and over again why you're angry?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we do that because that anger starts to fade. That feeling of anger starts to fade. And now it's like, no, I'm justified in being angry. So we rehearse in our mind what happened, the offense that happened. And I think that's what this is talking about, is don't keep rehearsing the anger. Think about, what can I do about this? Is there something I need to do about this? Do I need to let go of it? Do I need to forgive somebody? Do I, again, it's that's where it's time to kind of look at, contemplate, what do I need to do about this? And the Bible gives us a few other things. It tells us to be slow to anger. And I guess thinking about that from how do we do that in practice? How do we be slow to anger? Somebody offends you, somebody does something. How can you be slow to anger?
A couple of things I do is, well, for one, for like just kind of your regular week to week offenses, I have the saying of, they can't make me offended. I choose to be offended. And so I'm taking the control. It's like, the offense is in me. And so, I mean, unless they're hitting you, but if they say something negative about you, you get to choose if you're going to take that and rehearse it in your head, like you said. And yeah, I think like focusing on it is a huge thing. Like one of the ways that you can kind of control your anger, so to speak, is you don't allow the thoughts to keep ruminating. Unless there's something you need to actually solve in that moment, there's no point in actually like continuing to have the same argument over and over and over again.
Well, and that's a really good way to keep your anger, or the sun from going down on your anger, because you're not rehearsing it. But I think to be slow to anger, to me, is also thinking about it from a standpoint of, and this is something I recommend to people, is try to be curious. I have found, and you guys can try, and if somebody who's watching this has a different way of looking at it, please let us know. But what I have found is it's almost impossible to be curious and angry. Mm-hmm. Because once we've stopped being curious, we've started making we made a black and white decision about why this is wrong, and now we're angry. But if we're curious, if somebody pulls out, cuts you off, or if somebody hits your car, it's easy to get angry right away. But then if you can stay curious and you go, hey, I wonder what happened, what just happened?
Yeah.
And maybe they were having a medical emergency, and they weren't in control of their car. Maybe one of the kids reached over and grabbed the wheel. You just don't know. And so what I try to do to be slow to anger is to try to stay curious. Well, wait a minute. Okay, I want to be angry about this, but I don't have all the information. I want to be curious and figure out what just happened. Doesn't mean I won't get angry about it later, but I don't know. Does that make
no,
sense?
that makes a lot of sense, because also when we keep things in our head, our imagination just kind of grows with it. And one thing I think I also had to realize is that sometimes someone will do something that I think is like wrong or offensive, and then if I actually like kind of dive deeper into it and like see it from their perspective, I'm like, oh, they didn't actually mean it to harm me. Like their intention was just to live life, and I was just kind of a bystander. Like just like maybe if someone makes a comment or something and you take it so deeply, that's what I've recognized, is that sometimes we don't need to take things so deeply.
Well, I think that's an awesome way to look at it, because the curious part of you, if you stay curious, you might be able to go to that person and say, well, wait a minute. Did you mean to just, that sounded like an insult. You
Yeah.
if you can come back to them with curiosity, you might find out that you were wrong in how you interpreted what they said, or you might give that. If not, you're giving them a heads up that, hey, that sounds really. You're telling them, hey, that sounds really
Yeah.
offensive.
Like, hey, you suck at communication.
I think the other thing to keep in mind too is anger. Anger is usually a secondary emotion, meaning it's not the first one, it's the second one, or second, there's other ones before. Usually the anger follows some kind of a vulnerable emotion. We're afraid, we feel hurt, we feel disrespected, we feel not cared for. There's some kind of a vulnerable emotion that usually starts first before the anger. And it could be a multitude of different ones. If you think about the last time you got angry, I'm sure you've never gotten angry with any of your siblings.
Bro.
I mean, you have 5 other siblings, so come on.
None of them have good track records.
None of them have, yeah, okay. Well, and that's just part of being a sibling. I think there you get angry with each other, you find ways to get around it, you work through it, those kind of things work out better actually if parents don't even get involved. It's just like, hey,
No, yeah, like even with Becca, my younger sister by 2 years, I just remember I hated her when she was younger. She was so annoying and obnoxious, and now she's just like one of my favorite siblings.
She is?
Yes.
Okay, so think of something that made you angry. I mean, thinking, or go back to the Lego incident.
Oh, this is like I have to take like a time machine in my brain. Oh, ooh. Oh, I'm so mad.
Just so we don't throw Becca under the bus,
No, okay, so wait. We would have been young because this was the first house that we lived in. So I had this journal. It was my first ever journal that I got, and it had like a little lock on it, and it was like a cat themed journal. And she literally took Sharpie and wrote on the entire front like part of the book. The
and
cover.
She would have been how old?
She would have been like 5.
Okay.
Or 6. No, probably even younger, maybe 4.
Right.
Okay. So like really young. I was so mad.
You didn't like her artwork?
No, it was horrible. I was literally so mad. And
but go to the vulnerable emotions first. So what was causing the anger?
Okay, well for one, it was my personal journal.
Yeah.
And
how did that hurt you? How did that
That's just like I just remember like being like, bro, like why? Like it's not yours. Like literally, why did you do that? Like I was like, I'm sure I felt like violated.
Uh-huh.
Like this is my book. Like
and it was something you valued.
Thoughts. Yeah. Like I think that was probably the thing that I valued the most at that time out of all my possessions.
Yeah. And she was probably trying to decorate it for you.
I don't know. Like I kind of want to go back in time and like ask her some questions because I genuinely like I'm curious because I'm sure like there's something like that, like she just wanted to enjoy it as much as I did or whatever. Or maybe I did something to her and she was trying to get me back. I don't know, but yeah. It's funny how like I'm looking back and I'm still so peeved. Like
she violated something that you valued.
Becca's getting strays.
But she was very, I mean, you guys back at that time, I mean, you were very young at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. But then like we grew up and we get along really well and it feels like her personality is entirely different.
Well, and I think one of the things that happens, it's like being siblings is a really cool thing. And I apologize for anybody who doesn't have any siblings because, you miss the best and worst of us. Because our siblings they see the best and the worst of us. And it's where you first start learning to teach people how to treat us, how to treat yourself. If your brother, and I had an older brother and, it's learning to stand up to some of the things he would say or do. And I'm sure I did the same thing to him, and we kind of knock the rough edges off each other over time, not physically, but mentally and emotionally. We learn what's appropriate, what's not appropriate.
My siblings did not do a good job on me.
But if you think about it, even most of the time, your siblings would you kind of like they almost feel like arch enemies at some point, but then let somebody else pick on one of your siblings and you're right there to defend them, I would guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I would totally do that. Yeah, I think we that's really a space where you get to learn a lot about yourself and other people. Um, yeah, it's really great. I love that part of life.
But I think if the importance of looking at it as a secondary emotion is that we can't really address anger by itself unless we understand what's at the root of it, where's it coming from.
Yeah.
And if we just try to address anger by itself, then we're looking at, I mean, a lot of times it's easy to blame other people for our anger. A lot of times it's easy to look at it from a standpoint of retaliation. Retaliation is never allowed. It's even discouraged in Scripture. But understanding the underneath the value, and especially as you get into a relationship, as you're in a romantic relationship, you're not going to always get along. There's going to be times when you start to have a little bit of anger towards each other. And one of the things that helps is to understand, okay, when he said this, why did that make me angry? Why did I get really angry about that? And so I've learned to pause and not react to my anger. If I feel that way when my husband, when he says something that it feels hurtful or disrespectful, or he doesn't do something or he does do something, I try to stop for a second and say, okay, why did this make me so angry? Because if I argue with him in anger, we're both going to it just gets escalated, and there's a lot of words that gets thrown back and forth.
Yeah.
And so what I try to do is I try to take a break. I'll say, wait a minute, I can't talk to you right now. I'm too angry. I'm not going to talk to you while I'm angry. And so then I take a break and I stop. And once I cool down a little bit, and it doesn't take long, 15, 20 minutes to bring as long as you're not rehearsing while you're angry, it doesn't take very long. And then what I'll do is I'll ask myself, what was underneath that? What was anger is a protective emotion. So what am I protecting? And then I'll come back to him and I'll say, okay, I think I understand why I got so angry by what you said, because I felt like you were being really disrespectful. Mm-hmm. And I felt like you're showing me that you don't really care about me in that way. And I'm giving him now a chance to deal with that versus my anger. Because if he deals with my anger, he's going to get angry back. But if he says, no, I never intended for that. I never meant for you to feel that way. Now we've got a conversation going that doesn't include that secondary emotion.
Yeah. This reminds me of a conversation I've had with my boyfriend, where I got I was only a little bit angry, because we're not at the stage yet where we kind of have those yet, because we've only been seeing each other for probably almost a year now. But we're talking, and he had said something. He was like, if you had a bunch of women placed on an island, they wouldn't be able to support themselves long term.
Ooh,
bro. I was, ooh!
Okay, ladies, anybody wants to can reply to that one.
So I was so mad. Okay, I wasn't that mad. I was mad, and a part of me knows that there's truth to that, because look at these muscles. Check out these muscles. The men would be more successful because they're just, on average, they're just more built for that. So anyways, I was arguing back with him, and I realized I was underneath all of that, I'm I feel like you're telling me I'm incapable. And he didn't mean it like that. It's just that he was trying to showcase the strengths that men have and some of the weaknesses that women potentially have. And it's not that women are incapable, but it's that they provide differences. They provide different strengths. So, yeah.
I guess I would argue that you could put either gender on an island by themselves, and I'm not sure that it would be as good as the two genders working together.
I know. See, that's what I was thinking. Because we're talking about it, and he was saying that men build the infrastructure, the houses, I mean, we're going back in time, okay?
I want to have a conversation with your boyfriend.
No, so well, also he's not here to really articulate himself.
Okay.
Um, and I was telling him, well, also the women, and like he agrees with me on this, like we're both adding to this conversation. The women bring life. Like we get to carry the children, we get to nurse the babies, we get to, like, having them together, we just create this beautiful ecosystem. So, anyways, that was kind of what that was. Like, we're doing a bunch of generalization, and you can imagine anytime that happens, someone's going to get angry. But, anyways, the underlying implication here is of like, oh, I don't want to be seen as incapable.
No, I understand that, and that's the piece that's underneath. That's that vulnerable thing, and it's easy to get angry when we have something vulnerable that we're trying to protect. To kind of skip over that a second, when your mom was a baby, we had some really good friends from our church, and they were over to our place. And the reason I say your mom was a baby, she was in one of those little baby swing thingies, and he went on the guy, the male friend went on and on about how men are stronger than women and all of this stuff. And they're, because they have to protect women and all this stuff.
Depends on how you define strength.
So here's what I asked him. I said, "You do a lot of hunting, right?" And he says, "Oh yeah." And I said, "So you're out in the woods hunting, and you come across a big bear and a couple of little bears. Does it matter to you what the gender of that big bear is?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to be around a female, a mother bear." I said, "Uh-huh." It's like you don't want to get between the babies and the mama bear, because mama bears can be vicious. So I think just looking at it, again, those kind of discussions, and if anybody wants to have a discussion, we're glad to talk about it. But I think we have to look at it from different perspectives and not make overall assumptions about who's stronger, anyway. That's my personal views. So when we think about this topic of how to deal with our anger, I mean, we've only been talking for about 15, 20 minutes, and we're not going to be able to solve this whole problem right now. I just really want to, and anytime you're having really, really strong emotions, anytime somebody is having, difficulty coping with any of these strong emotions, there's lots of therapists out there. Find a licensed therapist who specializes in whatever it is that you're looking for. It's really important to have somebody. I think one of the things that I like doing as a therapist is just being that sounding board for people and just giving them an alternative to look at and, to process through. So find that person for you,
Yeah.
And relationship counselors are really good too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you learned something new, and we'll see you guys next time.